part of my prayer.
Oh, okay. Then I'll wait.
No.
Okay.
Small, look at the keys I got.
I think pretty good.
I like the graphics.
From the well,
I'm not sure on these. How you feeling?
Better. Getting slowly better over time.
Wasn't that on the other arm last night? Wednesday or Tuesday?
What the hell gave me this sympathy?
Oh, dear.
All right, there we go, 6:05. Welcome all of you to our Bath Township meeting, which is Monday, October 4th. What we're going to do is a pledge of allegiance to the flag. Then we're going to have a moment of silence for our work. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to need the approval of the agenda.
So move.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. You need record roll call vote, then you can do.
Okay.
Ms. Howe?
Here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Mr. Wisswasser?
Here.
Mr. Almarigi?
Here.
Mr. Benzi?
Here.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we're going to do number 3, which is the approval of the agenda.
Right.
Oh, I need to.
I've already on.
I was going to say, I thought you had it on. I know.
No, he wants.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Two amendments. Under 12 committee reports, I'd like to do 2 reports, one on the broadband committee and one on the Safe Routes to School committee.
Your committee reports, right?
Yes.
Okay. So 12 would be A and B added?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other changes? All right, we're looking then for approval.
I so move.
Good. Okay. Need a second?
I'll second
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, board, do we have any disclosure and conflict of interest? No, appears none. Okay. We have public statements, number 1. You're limited to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody who wants to make a public statement?
Yeah.
Well, this would be on the agenda. I'm sorry, yes. So we'll have to wait for 2. All right, we have none at this time for the agenda items. That was my mistake. Do we have any county, state, federal, or other agencies? Doesn't seem to be any. Consent agenda, number 7. And these are record roll call vote without discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Howe?
Yes, it says without discussion.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Bliss?
All right. Number 8 is the approval of the minutes. And I think okay, that would be board member minutes for September 20th. Any changes? Nope, here's the, good job. I know you worked well. Okay, do you record roll call vote to approve?
Need a motion. I'll motion to approve the minutes of the September 20th, 2021. Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Bensy?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes. Close my pencil. Okay, we are on 9, which is approval of the vouchers.
I would move approval of the vouchers for tonight's meeting.
Second.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Bensy?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes.
Now we're on 10, which is the treasury report. It says there are no attachments, but apparently there is.
Well, there's lots of things, loose things that brought to the board, and I have this also for anybody that would, if anybody in the audience would be interested in some of the stuff, I have this. And, first thing is the treasury report this evening, ladies and gentlemen, I'm bringing you we have a document I put on your desk. It comes from the Michigan Association of County Treasurers, and it deals with foreclosure timelines and talking about taxes. At the previous meeting, this last time we had a meeting this last 2 weeks ago, I was kind of surprised, I guess, or shocked. I had a lady that stood up at the podium and talked about she was concerned about coming and speaking at the township board meeting, that she was concerned about her. This didn't get put in the minutes, but it is on the video. Because she was concerned about the fact that maybe she may or may not have been late on her taxes, and she didn't know if that had a thing to do with coming up here. She realized that maybe she was taking an awful chance. First thing I'm going to tell you is I can assure each and every one of you who is sitting at this table that you have no authority, the same as I, to take anybody's house from them or to foreclose on them if they don't pay their taxes. Absolutely zero, as well as anybody in this room. Unless somebody in this room happens to be a circuit judge, I don't see one out there. But so I researched this, and I pulled it from the county treasurer's office, and I pulled the foreclosure timeline schedule, because it has changed in the last few years. Because I wanted to see just exactly what the statute did say today. There's lots of different things that I found in this process. It was kind of interesting to look at it. But for instance, this document we have, it refers to, on the second page, and then on the first page, it refers to an acronym, which our government's full in these days, FGU. That's a foreclosing government unit. Michigan is one, has 83 counties total in Michigan, 7 of which are, Clinton County is one of 7 who has chosen not to opt out of the FGU with the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan is our government foreclosing unit here. They're the only ones in this county who can foreclose on a house or take somebody's house from them. The process goes through the state of Michigan, and this is done by the County Board of Commissioners and the Treasurer's Office of the county. That during deliberation has voted to stay with the state of Michigan, as 7 other counties have out of the 83. And they're the only ones who handle the foreclosure process. The foreclosure process actually takes place in circuit court. If you follow this timeline, if the board members have had this, and this is available if anybody else would like it. I got extra copies, and I'm more than willing to make more people copies. But there's a 4-year process. Marie, you asked me this before the meeting. It's a 4-year process that takes place. And the statute has changed in the last year, which is why it got me thinking about this. Because now if somebody loses their home and their home is sold, and the home is sold for taxes, and if it sells for more money than what the homeowner or the complainant owes on it, by law, they are eligible to go back to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan, being the foreclosure unit, people have to pay them back the difference between what the house was sold for and what the house actually, what was owed on it. So my main thing, that what troubled me, and I don't know if the woman didn't know this or what the trouble was, but nobody here can take somebody's house, including myself. I collect taxes. I turn my tax roll over. If you look at this timeline here, on March 1st, the delinquent taxes get turned over to the county. The county works the process through multiple tax bills. Actually, up to 6 to 12 tax bills can be sent out before the process actually goes to the state of Michigan. But it's a long, lengthy process. It takes 4 years. And in the end, not even the county government can take your house from you. It's the state of Michigan. That's the way they've designed it to work. That's how the county people of the county want it to work, and they feel most confident in this. Some counties opted out of this thing, and talking with the county treasurer's office about this a little bit, and talking to others. The reason why they opted out of this was because there's money in it. There's money in the counties for taking and handling this, for processing fees and everything else. Clinton County thought that they didn't want to be involved in this, and I give them kudos for that, and I'm glad I live in a county that feels that way. But that's what the process is for that. If anybody, like I said, wants more information on this, I have these, I have more of them, I printed off. I'm more than willing to make copies for somebody if they're interested in how this process works. It's a very lengthy process. It takes 4 years for it to happen, and different by statute today is if they sell your house, if the FGU sells your house, then you still, if there's money up and above what was owed for liens that was placed on the house, then the homeowner is entitled to get their share of their money back. And that's changed. Some people think that's a good thing, some people don't. But out of 83 counties, we're one of 7 who are still working with the state of Michigan on that, which is the way I feel is a good way to do business. With that being said, the only other extra thing there is we do have on taxes, and I got a couple of things we're going to talk about. We do have personal delinquent property taxes. Now that is a little different animal. That's not the same thing as ad valorem taxes, which is real and actual as homes and properties other than personal property. Personal property taxes is something that gets written off every so many years. Currently, right here for this month in October 14th of this month, we're going to write off the 2015 delinquent personal property taxes that couldn't be collected or had not been collected. Obviously, the 15 taxes, I started back here on the year of 16, so that'll wrap up pretty well the 8 years that I was gone from here. But the county is writing off $29,505.51 countywide of delinquent personal property taxes. Bath Township represents 15% of that. There's actually only 2 parcels that are actually current parcels, that are active parcels, who are not bankrupt, whose people have not been deceased, or businesses have failed and gone away. So that's really not too bad. When we get from 16 till the current year, we have very, very little. We're probably 2 or 3% is what we have. We've done a pretty good job. Every year we send out, as we have, we did our due diligence, we sent out our notices timely like we're supposed to, so we're not looked bad upon from the county. But they are going to write off here on the 14th of this month, for county-wide, they're going to write off $29,505.51. That's Bath Township share of that is 15%. It's a matter of 2 parcels, and we're really in pretty good shape for what we have for the way of personal property taxes. That we do have a say in. We can put a lien on it. We can take and do things to get them, as long as the personal property doesn't have a title or a deed to it, we can do that. And that's where the title comes in big on a lot of this equipment and things that you can't. If it comes with a title, then you can't go back and try to repossess it or try to hold it for tax sale or anything else. So we're in pretty good shape with our delinquent personals for the year of 2015, and that's the write-off. That's the 5-year write-off on that. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and I apologize, I don't have a lot of handouts, but we're busy in this place these days. On Tuesday, the 21st at 9 a.m., we met with Aaron Stevens from Maynard Gusterson. And I think I talked about this a little bit in the past. When we talked about I've been concerned about our changes that we've done in the last year. And I've been watching, I thought maybe we'd see something, but I don't, unless I missed it, I didn't see anything in writing. And the ladies are shaking their heads over there. I'm true about that, so I didn't miss it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. I'm going to cover myself a little bit here. I feel that our changes are not representing what some of our business we do on a daily basis in here in cash receiving, and things have changed. And I pointed out some of what the effect when you change something on one side, how it could affect the other things. And collecting money is the big deal. And we'll start with, there's 4 different departments that we do what we call transmittal sheets with on a daily basis, where we collect money, or sometimes on a weekly basis. It depends on the department, how much money we're talking, and when they're collecting it. But the building and zoning or building permits is one of them. We had a very good review of Aaron Stevens over that. Back in 2010 was the last time they did an internal controls assessment, internal controls for that. And it hasn't been updated since 2010. Unfortunately, I only have one copy of this. I think there's a couple others floating around somewhere. But I only have one of these. What we did is we had Maynard come in, and Maynard is reassessing this. That's who did it for us before, but it was a different name, but obviously they changed their name. And we're going to have a new set of internal controls written with the types of businesses we're doing right now, and how we've changed our structure in here, and how we're doing things, how we're collecting money, how we got new departments that are merged together, and things like that. And we've lost some missing pieces here, and it alarms me. Building and zoning is a big one. The reason why it alarms me, here 4 weeks ago, I told you that with the township SED increased by $18 million, but yet our building and zoning revenues didn't keep pace with that. They went down. So that makes me wonder, as a numbers guy, why is that? How could we not have more building permits and stuff like that? But yet we got $18 million more worth of assessment, due to splits and sales and building and so on and so forth. So to do a correct accounting for that, you have to keep good accounting records. And we reviewed the process of how we're doing this, and we're going to they came up with some new ideas, and we're going to go to some new ideas, and they're looking into that. And it's going to take, obviously, the first thing we have to have a written Bible from the accountants. And then second of all, we'll have to get with our software people, and we'll have to see how we implement this stuff. And that'll take care of the building and zoning in that department. That's a huge deal. I'm really concerned about that. The police department's another one we get transmittal sheets from. And we're going to improve our readiness on that, and maybe how often we're getting them. We're getting back to where we should be instead of where we currently are. Senior center is in pretty good shape. I was pretty proud of that. I thought the senior center was pretty good, but Maynard did pick that apart, and they mentioned to me that we give out tokens and things that are handwritten numbers on them, and things like that, and we shouldn't have them. We should have in government accounting, you should always have a pre-numbered thing with printed numbers from computers, so that they can't be just made up as you go. You're talking about $4 or $5 lunches here, I believe it is, but it's still, that's what you hired them for, to give you an opinion. That's what they did. So that's the only thing they found wrong there. The last one was a big one that was a hot button issue for me. I'm not real thrilled with the way things go with the farmer's market. I like the farmer's market. I believe in it, and I'm going to make sure that everything goes well with it, because I think they do a great job of taking care of themselves for no more money than what they get. They haven't had a fundraiser in a couple of years, and they're still surviving. And they're doing great. But we needed to have some accounting work that needed to be upgraded there, as far as how we're accounting for things and who's actually doing it. The money needs to be accounted for and turned into the deputy treasurer. It needs to come to the treasurer and not any other department. End of story. And that pretty well got identified, and picking the people who are gonna run the farmer's market. It's something that we've all talked about at this table. And you talked about everything but the money. You didn't talk about the money. And you can say what you want to say, but to keep them profitable and to keep them going, it needs to be done correctly. And that was my purpose of doing that. I'm happy to answer any questions about this. As soon as we get this back, we do this on a regular basis. I think probably it was here, Ryan, last time this was done in 2010, maybe or maybe not. I don't
Just
know.
after that.
But this needs to be done. It has full charts. Once again, colored full charts. It shows you exactly how the process is supposed to work, where it's supposed to go, and everything's supposed to happen with it. And it was a good thing to have the assessment of our internal controls and have this done. We've had 5 pretty good audits, perfect audits, and I'm a little bit nervous this time because I don't see things going as I think it ought to be going around here. I'm not opposed to change, but I'm opposed to not doing things in accordance with what they ought to be done. You can change anything you want to change, but just make sure you do things right. I guess that's my piece of that. That's what bothers me. That's all I have for you tonight, other than you have your stuff in your mailbox. Make sure you get your mailbox material for your vouchers that you approved tonight and your revenues for the month or for the 2 weeks. And the vouchers are on the desk. Please stop and sign them before you leave tonight. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me. Once again, if anybody in the audience is interested in one of these flow charts from the foreclosure thing, I have some of them available. We make them available, and just want everybody to know that nobody here can take somebody's house, or are we in the business of taking somebody's house or property? And but that bothered me when that got said the other day. And I dug into that and I looked at that because I don't think that's not what our role is here. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yes.
I have a very simple one. I'm going to backtrack. Are you saying that out of 83 counties, only 7 of them?
State of Michigan's only handling 7 of them, to my knowledge right now, from talking to
Yeah.
the county treasurers I talked to.
It's amazing.
And it's done by county, it's done by the county board of commissioners have a say in it, along with very close work with the county treasurer. And it's done, and that, there is money in it. Some of your bigger urban areas, your bigger counties that have a lot more, urban areas, they get involved in this because there's a lot more, if you think about it, there's a lot more houses and things like that. In Clinton County, I can just say we're very fortunate to live in Clinton County because this is a rural area and we're not subject to a lot of things that a lot of other areas are in this case. And I think it's a good thing, but we're involved with them. And interestingly enough, there is a lot of them. And obviously, there's a few in the Upper Peninsula, and they're scattered throughout Lower Michigan as well. There's only 7 of us, but we're part of 7.
Okay. Any other comments? Apparently not. All right, so we go on to 11, which is committee appointments. Before we do that, I'd like to read something to you, not only for the board's information, but general public. So bear with me as I read. It says, in the near future, Bath Township is going to be asked to do some difficult questions or decisions regarding the building expansion of our sewer system. That's why Brad was here, correct? Okay. Historically, it appears that the last time there was a major sewer initiative, it involved the water treatment plant expansion, as well as the rehabilitation and creation of a new sub pumps. In December of 1976, Bath Charter Township voted to authorize, I love this number, $12,734,000 in order for step 2 to complete. To go on to step 3, they prorated an amount that dealt with Water Township of $2,188,000. Most likely that was $2 million, I would have guessed. And the township share for step 2 to work. I believe Trustee Rosencrantz was there at that time. At least,
Yeah.
okay, because I was going to say, it says in the resolution that you were there. So that was a decision for you that you had to make, which was...
Don't tell the year very low.
Yeah, just a few years ago, so it is that. Bids were subsequently taken, and the project in 1978, it was completed in 1980 for the cost of the $12,302,000. State and federal grants provided about $9,750,000. Our cost at that time for Bath Township was about $380,000. Today, I'm asking the Board of Trustees permission to accept Jeremy Tolliver, who is sitting over there, as the newest commissioner for the Bath Charter Township to serve on the building, with a vacancy created by the resignation of our treasurer, Steve Wisswasser, until January of 2024. As all members, Mr. Tolliver would receive his $35 per diem from SCUMA per meeting. He would be responsible to attend the meetings once a month. But most important, he would be carrying one vote as our appointed or our elected superintendent, Ms. Karen Hildebrandt. She also has one vote. So Bath Township has 2 votes at the SCUMA board. I would also note that Mr. Tolliver is a recipient of the SCUMA services. He is a vice chair of our Sewer Board of Appeals. Mr. Tolliver has lived in the community most of his life. He's passionate about his community, and he volunteers his time and his family's with community activities. In his job capacity, he's responsible for about 160 plus employees and manages different budgets for all projects. And again, I am asking the Board of Trustees permission to accept Mr. Jeremy Tolliver as the newest commissioner for the Bath Charter Township to serve on the SCUMA board, filling the vacancy created by the residency of our treasurer, Steve Wisswasser. So, having said that, I guess I need a motion.
Madam Supervisor, I would move to accept Jeremy Tolliver and place him on the SCUMA board for the term expiring in January of 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay. So you do that. We'll call the, trustee Smith.
It's my understanding that the SCUMA board can make commitments on our behalf that we will then be held to in terms of finances. Is that true?
If will be held to them, I think that's an agreement that is done. We have 2 votes as opposed to DeWitt Township having 5. Is that correct? The city of DeWitt has 2. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, there's a number of people that serve from the 4
So it's the board's
municipalities.
decision.
The SCUMA board's
The
decision.
board.
Right, but that we then would be leveraged, funding from our internal sewer funds.
If that's what the board determines.
Right. So I would be a no vote on Mr. Tolliver, not because of any of his credentials. I think he's well credentialed. I think it's not appropriate for a non-board member to serve on the SCUMA board since they are making commitments on this board's behalf. I think it's helpful, if not necessary, for our board to have control of that since we're the ones who are going to have to function to pay that.
I understand.
Off.
And I did some heavy thinking because this is really, really a very, very important committee. It's probably one of the most important that we have. And I think Mr. Tolliver is very aware of that. But in their articles of corporation, they say it's up to us to determine who it is that serves. It doesn't say you have to serve a board member. I have talked to them before, and their comments have been, they usually have done that, but with Steve resigning, I talked to Trustee Benzie, and that wasn't something that he wanted. So I went outside, and I think Mr. Tolliver is more than qualified to be able to make decisions for whatever it is that we're going to make decisions for SCUMA. So that's my response, and you're more than welcome to vote no. That's,
Maria, I'd like to expand.
Please. no. Trustee, treasurer was last.
I think that everybody that sits at this table
Yeah.
is going to have to make these decisions. And you're going to be involved in the financial decisions of the SCUMA board of directors or of the sewer authority or the sewer system. The township sewer system is $13.8 million today we have in assets that belong to us from the sewer authority. We have, interestingly enough, we have more than that in the way of debt that we owe. We're looking at rebuilding the plant to the tune of $4.4 million. This board is going to have to take and sit down when the dust settles here eventually, hopefully when things settle down, if it does settle down in the next couple of months. And you guys will start looking, taking, and how you're going to finance your share of that. You're going to owe roughly, I think it's 27% of that rebuild project is what you're gonna owe, because it goes on flow, and that's what our flow is. It goes to the authority. By no means, just because you're electing a person, appointing a person to go there and serve, does that mean that the ball stops with them to make a decision? They're not gonna be able to make a decision, because the money still has to come from this board, it has to be appropriated from this board. All the debt in the sewer system there is guaranteed by the good faith and credit of the general fund. The good faith and credit of the general fund is what backs the sewer fund. In the event that the sewer fund goes broke, or we don't have enough money to pay our bills, the taxpayers are left on the hook for paying for the sewer system. And that's part of that, right there, is part of the responsibility. It was brought to my attention this last week, I talked with another trustee, we talked about the fact that we had quite a lot of money we were sitting on cash, we're sitting on right now in our cash account, in our general fund. Well, yeah, we are. This ain't my first rodeo, I did this, I've bonded, I think, probably 7 times since I've been, in all the years I've been on the board, maybe more than that, I don't know, I forgot, I've been here too long. But the bottom line is, you have to have accessible finances and collateral and money to be able to take them back up when you're applying for a bond, to be able to back up the good faith and credit of what paragraph 3 talks about in the bonding section, to be able to talk about funding this stuff. This board decides the financial issues of the decisions of the township. The SCUMA board, what that person does over there is a unique job over there, because that person is on an authority board, and an authority board is like any other authority board. They're exempt from anybody telling them what they can or can't do. However, they have to come to us and ask us for money that they can do what they want to do. And this person, whoever, I don't care who it is, any person you put out here in the audience, you put on that authority board, they can't do anything without asking this board about the finances of how they're going to pay for it. And they did just recently send us a letter, and I think you probably got the same letters I got, where the authority board asked their attorney if they could take in bond and pay for this stuff through the SRF, which is help me out with it, state revolving fund. They asked them if they could take and revolve for this as the authority board over there as one big group, instead of going through each municipality and bonding and paying for the repairs. You look at us, ours is about $4.5 million. Who knows, it goes up and down every day. You take somebody like DeWitt, they're looking at somewhere between $8 and $10 million. They have 5 members on their board, and I think there's only 1 or 2 maybe that are currently elected people. One's the township manager, seeing what we have, and the other one is an elected trustee. But they have 3 other members that are just members at large, but they have a lot more ownership. Incidentally, a lot of it hasn't been said about this, hasn't been talked about it, but we talked about it when we talked about the rebuilding of the plant. This thing is going to change, because when you rebuild the plant, you're going to increase capacity. When you increase capacity in accordance to the charter of the authority, the bylaws, you're going to increase membership as well as being on the board. And you're going to be able to, there's a good chance, I'm sure, we're going to have another member. You're going to have to appoint another member to the board, because we're going to have more control, because we're doing it by flow, and we're going to have more flow, and if the plant gets larger, we're going to have more ownership, and so you're going to have another member. I'm not voting, I didn't make my motion against anybody on this board, but I'm going to tell you something, whether you want to hear it or not, you're going to hear it, because I guess I get the choice to be able, that's what because I'm elected, I get to do this. It's time for some new blood, to let other people into this thing, and let other people into our government here, and move forward, and have positive thinking about this stuff. Don't look at everything negative. You still are the people who are making the decisions financially. They can decide what you're going to do. I'm hard on Karen. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm probably meaner to her than I should be. I'm not mean in the way of being mean, but I'm very outspoken about some of this stuff. The sewer thing is very important, and I think I told somebody else in an email today about that. Emailed me about this. It's a very important thing, and you need to take and not sell yourself short, and don't be scared of what somebody's new ideas are going to be, or what they're going to do. If it wasn't for new ideas or thinking new, I wouldn't even be here today. I think you all agree with that. In 1996, I got appointed to this board, and I was on that board, on the SCUMA Authority Board, and I replaced a guy who was a county commissioner who was one of the founding founders of our SCUMA board, and I learned and I grew from it, and I got to learn all the ins and outs of it. For me, it was great, because eventually I became the treasurer, and I was involved in the finances of it, so I was involved in both sides of it. But I just think that, I think you need to have I really do. I hear what you're saying, Ryan, and it's taking a little bit of a chance here, but the guy's got credentials. I don't know the guy from Adam. I think I know who his father is, but that's about all I can tell you about it. But I know I've read his credentials. I looked at it the way it should be looked at. I didn't look at it on a biased way. I'm not saying anybody else is. I just think that you guys need to take it. You can have all this change, and you can do all the changing you want, but we better take care of business a little bit. And that's what I think you're doing here. And no matter what, I think you're gonna have another member on the board again before you're done here. There's nothing wrong with the treasurer being involved with the meetings and doing some of these things that need to be done, going through as far as the financial parts of it, and coming back and talking to the board, or the board members can be involved as far as that goes. But this authority board thing is about the operation of the authority. It's not about the operation of the sewer fund here at home. That's ours. And that's this board's responsibility. If you goof up, or if we goof up, if I goof up, Joe goofs up, Marie goofs up, it's guaranteed with good faith and credit to the taxpayers. That means that people that live out here in the country are gonna pay for the sewer for you 4 board members, which incidentally, you all live on the sewer. And nobody else that sits at this table does live on the sewer system. But that means that we would pay for your guys' increases to run your sewer system if we make bad mistakes or bad moves. We have representation here. We have a lot of representation for people that's on the sewer authority. Al, you was on board back when they put this thing through in 1976, Mr. Spagnola, who bailed you out of this.
Yeah, he did.
The state representative who
Yeah.
did this. I mean, I was probably 10 years old. I don't want to come in a little older than that. I don't want to date you, Al,
Yeah,
but my 60 years here, but that's what it was.
yeah, the board at that time went ahead with the sewer without any money and said that they would hope that they would get the state to give us some money. We thought it was almost to the end when we had to pay for it, that the state finally come through and give us a grant.
Thanks to Spagnola, state representative
Yep.
for our area. I remember
Yep.
very well.
You think things are tough now, you should have been back there when we had all that money owed and no way of paying for it.
But as far as the I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about me stepping down from that, but it's for the not the same. It's for me to take care of things here and not take care of the daily goings on of what goes on with the sewer authority. You need to pick your battles of what you can do and what you can't do, and that's the battle is here. And sometimes we don't like what I say, but I mean I'll always tell you the truth. So that's the way it is. I don't know if it makes you feel better or not. It's not against you, Brian.
Trustee,
So when I was looking at this, I know we're talking about increasing our sewer capacity in Bath Township.
possibly, yes.
And if we do that, we increase our ownership, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So then it's gonna cost us more for this next bond, because we'll own more of it.
Depends on when we do it.
Exactly.
Because if you buy high and sell low,
Yeah.
the trick is to buy low and sell high later on. That's
So I just thought I'd put it out there for everybody, you know, this is very complicated.
Yes, it is.
I call for the question. Vote.
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Funes
No.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger? Yes.
Go, Jeremy. Not a trouble start. All right. Thank you very much for the votes, appreciate it. Township Committee, we had A and B. Okay, Jason?
Okay, so I just wanted to provide an update to and the community about two special committees that were formed this past year. The first one, sorry, I have been told I need to have better posture so that people electronically can hear me. So we have two special committees that we formed that are primarily staffed by citizens, community members, a wide range of community members. I'll first talk about the broadband committee. So during the pandemic, we have all experienced shortages of internet access or no access at all. And these are old concerns that have been shared, and we've attempted before to form a broadband committee to identify what can we do as a township to support our community in having access to affordable, reliable, and fast high-speed internet. And so back in March, we did form a community-driven committee of local experts, and we've had everyone from folks who work in the IT industry to people who work in government relations. So we formed three work groups, one on community outreach, who put the effort into looking into a survey, community survey to learn more, also to leverage that data for grant applications as they come down. We had another one on government relations, where we had some really top-notch people who took the time to meet with our representatives to learn more about the grant opportunities and how we can allocate federal funds to meet these needs. And then the third one was an IT infrastructure, which is they looked into what our infrastructure is and to make a set of recommendations about what are some of our options for improving our internet. And so we had a strong flurry of activity. A lot of hours were put into that work group. There's a little bit of a lull during the summer, but we came back together last week. I think that's last week on September 29th. And each of the work groups provided a set of recommendations about how we want to move forward. And so all three work groups provided in an open forum that was facilitated by a consultant from Public Sector Consultants, a set of recommendations. The chair of that committee, Kathy Zell, is in the process of organizing that information. And she's going to bring that back to a smaller group within the Broadband Task Force to then polish it up and then send that out for feedback from the full task force members. And then that report will be sent to the Planning Commission. I anticipate that will happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then the Planning Commission will need to deliberate on it and then forward a set of recommendations. And so we're trying to do this process properly. We're leveraging our community resources, the experts that we have in our community, expertise that we don't have here on the board, and to run it through our Planning Commission, which really keeps an eye on our infrastructure and how broadband may fit in across all the various components of our infrastructure. So I'm really excited about this. One other update with that, we have hired and contracted with public sector consultants to support a community survey where we're going to gather representative data on people's actual experiences and speeds of their internet and ways in which it has been helpful or not helpful. And so over the next few months, we will be administering that survey. I want to stress the importance of that data. What we're working towards is there's a quote here, to be shovel ready, meaning when we apply for grants, when we have all our ducks in a row, we have our information, we can say X percent of our community has reliable internet or does not have reliable internet. We've reached out, we've had public input. This makes us competitive for those funds. And so this is the best way, best strategy for us as a community to build our infrastructure and create a space where we have high-speed internet. that is going to leverage more federal funds than our own local funds. So that's the first update. Any questions on broadband? Right?
The lobbying firm again. Who was it?
Lobbying firm?
Well, the firm you contracted with.
Oh, public sector
Public
consultants.
sector. Okay.
So we chose public sector consultants because of their reputation, not only in the nonprofit world, but the state and local governments. They have an impeccable reputation. They do this work day in and day out. And so we wanted to make sure that when we present our survey results, that name is attached to it, and someone says, I can trust those data. I can trust those results. So that's the purpose of why we did that. Any other questions? All right, part B, safe routes to school. So a few weeks back, we had made a resolution to look into applying for a federal grant called Safe Routes to School. This is a grant program that will pay for infrastructure and programming that will improve the safety of kindergarten through 8th grade students walking to and from school. And so the primary emphasis there is sidewalks, but it can include bike pathways or woodland trails. It does also include all aspects, not just sidewalks. So think about crosswalks, lighting, signage, striping on the road. And so part of that is, so we determined that we should go after these funds. Now, we're in the planning process. We have not developed an application. We're in the process of gathering the data and the information that we need to compile into a grant application. And so we have kind of interesting that we are the recipients of grant support through Michigan State University. So they provide us with technical support to ensure that we conduct all required elements of the application process adequately and professionally. And so we did have to pay a small matching portion of that just to show that we have skin in the game. So we did that. Our first event, besides some orientation meetings where we brought together community members, we have about 15 community members that represent Bath schools, the churches. I think right now we have Bath United Methodist Church. Clinton County Road Commission. We have, I'm going to forget all the different agencies. We have the Bath Police Department. Of course, we have the Bath Township Board that's represented on this committee. And then we have several community members. We've got community members who represent the Bath Historical Society and the Webster Road Committee. We have community members that, again, I'm going to forget all the different, we have a large group of representations. So as we have done some planning meetings, but this last Friday, October 1, we did what's called a walking audit. And so this was a MSU facilitated community activity where we went through, we had a structure for evaluating the state of our sidewalks, and we had 3 groups of community members with MSU leads, both professors as well as graduate students, who actively listened and reported to the feedback that community members had on their sidewalks. And so we had 2 police officers who attended, which was incredibly helpful. Ms. Hildebrand, our supervisor, and George Baker were also there in attendance. So we had, as MSU explained to me this morning in an email, we had tremendous turnout for that, more than what they typically see. And so MSU has recorded all that information. They're going to compile that, and then this Thursday we're having a Safe Routes to School kickoff event, hopefully at the Pavilion in Cousins Park. If not, it will be at the Bath Township Library. But at that event, MSU is going to bring that information back to community members, and community members are going to have a second look at that information and have an opportunity to add additional experiences and observations about how the children want to and from Bath, and where we may want to prioritize our efforts. And so, again, this is the first step of that planning process. The second step will be a kickoff meeting, and then we'll be gathering information directly from students and teachers on this as we go forward over the next few months. With anticipated application date, I believe, in February. And so, any questions about Safe Routes to School? Yeah.
You said it was a small amount that you had to pay MSU?
Yes. Yes, we contracted with them for $4,500. So in the end, when we submit an application, we will submit an application for $460,000, $440 of which will go towards infrastructure, and another $20,000 to support programming, educational programs for city passageways.
So they'll know to wait for the 4,500?
I'm not sure the nature of the contract. That was between MSU and the superintendent.
Okay. We've already committed to, we approved that in one of our budget amendments. So,
Thank you. I should have asked, going backwards, for the work group dealing with broadband, and you organized or contracted with public sector. Remember the dollar amount, public sector?
I think we committed up to $20,000 for the design of the process, the implementation, and then the reporting back out to us.
Okay,
There's
usually
several-
they have their money up front, so they already, they haven't. Okay,
no.
good, okay.
I believe I don't want to speak out. Typically, these things, you have a schedule for billing, and it's based on work completed, not.
So I wouldn't anticipate anything until after the first possibly month of work,
Yeah, no, good work.
so.
Any other questions about Safe Routes to School? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm taking notes, so I'm losing my place here. Okay. You did the committee report, we're on unfinished business, 13. Introduction and discussion. Superintendent Bill Brandt.
Thank you. In your packet, you received an amended resolution for the Cherry Street abandonment by the Clinton County Road Commission. In that amended resolution, it indicated that the abandoned Cherry Street right-of-way right-of-way, there's a lot of words there, would remain on the plat as a private right-of-way until such time a circuit court enters an order amending the plat under the Land Division Act, determining allocation to the adjacent property owners or township. As you recall, there are, I believe, 4 adjacent property owners that have been present at a couple of our past couple of meetings that have an interest in this. So at this time, I do not believe, the board may, of course, disagree with me and wish to take some action, but I don't believe any further action is required by the Bath Board of Trustees in this matter.
All right, is there any questions? All right, we're good. Now we're going to B items for action. Now, I have a question. They're asking for a closed session, but I'm not real sure. Go ahead, Superintendent Goodwin, you're going to have to explain this because I just received it, so I know nothing about this.
Okay, so we received at our last meeting, we took a vote to receive an appeal on a Freedom of Information Act request.
We did take a vote.
I'm sorry?
No, we did take a vote.
Yes, you did take a vote to accept it. The board can move to a closed session to consider a legal opinion from our attorney on how to proceed with that Freedom of Information Act appeal. I just need to slow down my words apparently. That requires a 2/3 vote if you'd like to go into closed session and discuss the legal opinion on the appeal.
All right, I have a question, because in your freedom of information, it states that we have to know the statutory basis for the closed session. Do we
It's
have?
to discuss a legal opinion from our lawyer.
Oh, so it's not what it says here with the MCL 15.2.
Legal opinions are items that are exempt from being discussed in public, so yes, it is.
Well, it says state or federal, so is it state or federal?
It's state.
Okay. It says state or federal, okay. No, I still have one more question, just so I'm clear on what we're doing and what we're supposed to be doing. This has to do with, I'm assuming, this piece that I just got from our clerk, which is requesting public records.
Correct.
Okay. So we have to discuss in closed session whether we distribute these.
We're going to discuss the legal opinion from our legal counsel on how to proceed.
Okay.
We will take no action. When we come back from closed session, we may
Right.
take action.
No, I get
We're going to
that.
discuss our options.
Okay, so it isn't, it's more for an attorney more than it is the section 8H.
That's why it says to consult with our attorney on a legal opinion regarding the Freedom of Information Act appeal by Gallagher Law.
To consider material exempt from discussion. Doesn't
The legal
say-
opinion is exempt.
But it doesn't say from our attorney. Okay. No, when I got it and I looked at it, and I didn't quite, so I started doing some research on it. And went to the open meetings, and of course, their section H says to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure by state or federal statute. So we're saying now it's state statute, correct? Okay, that's, because that was a little misleading. Okay, that's one thing that I needed to make sure I understood. And then it goes on. Okay.
My memo explained the recommendation. It outlined section 8H of the Open Meetings Act to consult with our attorney on a legal opinion regarding a Freedom of Information Act appeal by Gallagher Law.
The problem is the packet that I get from open meeting only goes up to 246. So I had to do a little more digging to figure out where you were coming with the 268 for an H. That was.
It's
my
from
only-
state law.
That's because this state law only goes, and this is the copy I have, Freedom of Information Act. Okay, so it didn't go that far. I had to go further to get it. I know I'm not finished. I can see way back. So I wanted to make sure that I was in the right place for it. So the Open Meetings Act, okay. But it does, we have to go a little further with the 268 for an H than we did, because when it's saying, or you have to, and so what you're saying is what we're giving for our 268H, which is another piece, has to do with the motion to cite H8H of the Open Meetings Act and the statutory basis. So the basis is the attorney.
The legal
Okay.
opinion that is not public.
No, that's what I understand. Okay. Now.
I'd like to make a motion to move into closed session to discuss a confidential written legal opinion regarding the appeal of Mr. Gallagher's 5/7/2021 FOIA request.
Excuse me. Jason, do you still have a question? Raise your hand for a few minutes, sir.
I was gonna make the motion, so I don't think
I was gonna say,
for
Brenda already-
I'll take
that's what
a
she did.
second.
Thank you.
So she's sitting closer to me.
Mr. Hewens Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to move, that's what I need to do, is to move that we're going to go in closed session, so do you want to sit and wait for us? Okay, here we go.
You gotta make a motion to go into executive session, right?
No, we're going. Do I call you back? We are back from closed session. You,
I motion to end closed session and resume regular session.
Second.
Mr. Emeriti?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howell?
yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce Bliss?
Yes.
All right, now would it be, isn't it, I don't think we've missed anything. Your items for action, your Freedom of Information Act appeal request. So we need to have them.
I would like to motion to provide a notice of extension, re-redact email addresses, and produce additional records in Bath Township's possession.
Second.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howell?
Yes, as understood.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Pierce Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Emeriti?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're on to business 14, which deals with items of introduction and discussion, an update on the Webster Road design.
Yes, thank you.
Lieutenant Noldred.
Yes, thank you, I appreciate it. Since our last meeting, you were expecting a presentation tonight on the Webster Road Committee project scope and plans, and that will not occur tonight, as I indicated in my memo. We recently submitted a new funding request for the sidewalk design, with the township providing a $50,000 match, which is 20% of an amount of $250,000, because that's what we believed it would take to put in an adequate sidewalk infrastructure from Drumheller to the north on-off ramp of 69. We were notified by Tri-County Regional Planning Commission that it was not likely that we'd receive the additional Transportation Alternatives Program. We refer to that often as TAP grant money. What we do know at this time is that the original amount that we requested, which is $114,000, which includes our 20% local match of $23,000, will still remain on the books and is in process to be implemented during 2023, when we are also doing the Webster Road Mill and Fill project with the Clinton County Road Commission. So at present, the Webster Road Committee had provided some options to this board for consideration. And we are going to hold on those plans until the Webster Road group can take a look better at those plans and ensure, not just because of cost reasons, but to assure that we've received some additional feedback from residents. And we're trying to make sure that we accommodate bike traffic if there is such bike traffic that can be substantiated. We do not have those numbers at this time. We also want to make sure that we are looking carefully at the center turn lane issue, both south of Drumheller and north of Drumheller. Still to be looked at is the pedestrian issues of lighting, benches, I won't say sidewalk, other amenities that help pedestrians travel safer, which may be in conjunction with safe routes to school, because we cross paths north of Drumheller Road up to Park Road. So tonight you do not have that presentation, obviously, but you still will be asked for a future determination of the following. And I'm going to cover these. You will receive a presentation before you're asked to make decisions on the following items. So Drumheller North to Clark, after discussion, and this is by Mark Trotter, our engineer with Clayton County Road Commission, He spoke with their Ingham County engineer. He recommends that Bath Township consider a 3 10-foot traffic lanes and 3-foot paved shoulders for bike traffic. So there would be no elimination of the center turn lane from Drumheller north to Clark. He believes that narrowing the traffic lanes to 10 feet would assist with traffic calming, which is slowing of the traffic, keeps the center turn lane intact, and provides adequate space for bike riders. 3 feet paved plus 1.5 foot of gutter, and although that can't be technically dedicated a bike lane because it's not wide enough, it has been successful in other areas for controlling and keeping bike traffic safe from motor vehicles. For Drumheller South to I-69, Mark Trotter is recommending converting the south section, Drumheller to I-69, and adding a left turn lane, increasing the road in this section from 2 lanes to 3, widening the road to include 2 4-foot bike lanes, but that would come at a cost to the township, so that you understand that. Any cost to widen the road would come to the township and would not be picked up by the Clinton County Road Commission. That cost is approximately $76,000 at this time. So the existing kind of real estate in that area, the width of the road, can accommodate 2 traffic lanes plus bike lanes, or 3 traffic lanes with no bike lanes, but it cannot accommodate both at this time. So you'll be asked in the future to make a decision on that. They have increased, the Clinton County Road Commission has increased its ask for the mill and fill amount from $300,000 to $450,000 for the mill and fill of Webster Road. The additional $150,000 is intended for guardrail replacement, which they think is important for safety. Deteriorated curb replacement between Drumheller and Clark, which is something that was identified when we did our walking tour for Safe Routes to School. And additional pavement thickness in the roadway of the mill and fill. So we are not expected to receive any kind of notification on funding until June of 2022. And at that time, we would need to conduct a land survey, which last time I provided you an update, I think it had the amount of $30,000, but it would be approximately $15,000 to $30,000 dependent on the options that you all select. Drumheller South to I-69, public input, which could include a survey or public meetings, and then having the project engineered, which I believe was high one time, but I have approximately $15,000 to $20,000. So we're trying to firm up costs and options. But we have been given notice that we are not going to receive the additional monies that we thought we could apply for.
Any questions?
Is TAP funds, so, I mean, it sounds like we have, we're good for the 114,000.
Correct.
Is that dependent upon the amount of sidewalk that is added or replaced? Or is it just improvement funds that we can use for sidewalks, lighting, benches, and the like?
It's for the sidewalks, essentially.
Okay. Another question I have is, if we reduce the width of the road for that first to 10 feet, are we also going to reduce the speed limits to accommodate the traffic calming? I took a look at the literature on this, and there's actually not a lot of consensus about the effectiveness of lane width and its impacts. Primarily safety, and it all depends if you're urban. One of the things that's, there was one article that I read, is if there's a lot of heavy traffic with heavy vehicles like semi-trucks or earth-moving trucks, it's actually less safe to have 10-foot lanes. So I want to make sure that we accommodate that.
Okay.
And then obviously I'm sending this mind state because of Safe Routes to School, but Now, I took a look at our non-motorized plan, which I think is sorely outdated.
It is, I think it's from 2007.
But, you know, one of the concerns I have is that it's not quite clear if the non-motorized plan or the current draft of the master plan were reviewed and consulted as a part of this process. Maybe it has been. I don't know what kind of data has been collected. I know there was road audits conducted by the committee, but I don't know if that committee has had a public hearing.
They have not.
And so the way that it's structured is that it sounds like we want to have the plan first before we engage the community on what they would like to see. And that seems backwards to me.
It does go backwards.
And so I know that Brian Shorkey helped him with this. As part of the planning commission, did do some community outreach activities. We had, Mr. Reich was there at one of the bath days where we had a booth. And then Brian and I did here at this township office a community forum. And we had tremendous community input on what they would like to see. So I just worry that the committee is making decisions without good community feedback on what we'd like to see. I'd rather make decisions about what we want based on community feedback and our planning process and our comprehensive plan, rather than based on dollar amounts from the beginning.
Sure.
I feel like we should chase our dream, not.
I agree.
So that's been my concern. I've been vocal about my concerns with the direction I've seen the Webster Road Committee go. That's not to discount all the tremendous, to use my colleague's term, horsepower that we have on the committee. We have phenomenal people.
We do.
I want to make sure that's, we're and if I remember correctly, in the discussion in the planning commission, we want to seize the opportunity that this is and set the stage for the next 20 years of what we can do there.
So I think what is difficult, I'm not trying to cut you off, so if this can be
No,
back and forth, I appreciate that. It's difficult because you're expected to approximate the cost of your projects in order to apply for funding. And then once you're granted funding, you're expected to engineer, take public input, and those things have to happen in a certain set of time. So one thing I'll address is your input, your public input. We can take in public input right now. We will have to do, as part of that process, we will be required to do a public input session again. So if that doesn't bother anybody, I'm certainly open, and I think the Webster Road Committee would be open to that too. It feels backwards because it is backwards. And like I said, you're expected to choose an option so that you can kind of estimate and engineer it, so that you can ask for the appropriate amount of money. Like we thought the $114,000 would be adequate for this project. When we started looking, it was more like $250,000. So in order to get to that amount, you have to do an additional ask so that you get enough, and then the onus doesn't fall on the township's funds in order to pay for that. So the process from the state sets it up to be you're chasing dollars. And I know we don't want to chase dollars. We should be chasing safety, a community that people are able to get where they need to go, whether that be on foot or bike or car. And so I think we can deal with some of the barriers this process is providing by doing an additional public input session or doing an additional public meeting or a survey, as long as we're not stepping on other projects that we're working on right now too. And try to accommodate those things, but it's hard because it's really that chicken or the egg.
I think, we've known about the Webster project for a few years now, and the planning commission has been pushing for the discussion about this. And if we had a good non-motorized plan that would have provided the blueprint, if we had an updated master plan, which should have been updated in 2019, that would also have been helpful. The Safe Routes to Schools project is exactly the same in terms of there's a set dollar amount for infrastructure. The difference is that how we set up the committee is that it's very inclusive with activities from the very beginning.
Right.
The Webster Road, how many meetings has the Webster Road Committee had?
I did this one, five.
So, I mean, this board authorized the forming of the Webster Road Committee a year ago. And so, I just, I do worry that we had the opportunity to seek community feedback from the very beginning. Even more than a year ago, when this was brought up to the planning commission meeting, you know, it's just unfortunate that we're in a crunch time where we have due dates, where now we have to make decisions that just don't feel right. At least to me. And I may be in the minority.
I think because the additional money is not available, I think it has slowed the decision-making down a little bit. I mean, it hasn't stopped it completely, but it's slowed it a bit. So that there can be time for that. Because what we were looking at previously was having to apply for something before tonight.
So the other thing is I was taking a look at the board's policy on fund balance. And one of the things that I thought was kind of interesting is that when we exceed 50% fund balance, the policy says that we need to be investing those additional funds. And so I wonder to what extent that's, if we have the plan that we have buy-in on, and the community is happy with, maybe it's a good idea to invest some of our fund balance, or maybe some ARPA funds to that project. And so, again, these are all where, what I'm thinking about all of this.
I recognize there are some disconnects. We do have some talented horsepower on that committee. We've got some engineers, we've got members of the road committee, we've got members of the planning commission. But I do feel like there is a disconnect. Is it possible that this board would like to have a meeting with that group? Or what I don't want is for them to continue to work in the direction that they're working. If this group in entirety is unhappy with what's coming out of them, or that group. And you haven't said that, you're saying that it could be different, it could be, so can this group meet with that group to sort some of this out?
I think that would be incredibly helpful to know why we're doing the development. And we keep talking about this Webster Road corridor development, but I'm not hearing the real reason why we're doing it, why we're investing that kind of money when we have SCUMA coming up with a tremendous amount of money. So, okay guys, you got to arm wrestle. Which one?
Yes. So there's the big reason, which is we need to take a look at our common sidewalks and our infrastructure. So that's big. We should have done that a long time ago. And we've gotten very crystal clear community feedback to that regard. The more, I think, tangible reason why we're doing it now for Webster Road is because we're scheduled for a mill and fill and the opportunity to receive TAMP grant.
It's timing.
So it's timing based on, the scheduling of Clinton County Road Commission and where we fell
And money available.
and TAMP grant money available.
So it doesn't have anything to do with bikes or anything to do with cars or traffic. It has everything to do with timing.
30,000-foot perspective, if we had a well-designed, non-motorized plan and a comprehensive plan that we were all bought into and comfortable with, there'd be a pretty clear direction that we should be spending our money and making investments in our community that are related to community feedback and input.
Is it my turn now?
Your turn now.
This is
I
a
think he's
very,
done.
very timely conversation because we are about to enter into our budget discussions
Yes.
on how we're going to
That's
spend or invest, if you will, some of our funds. So that should be a big part of our upcoming discussions that start this week. So, thanks for leading us into it, Jason, because we are gonna be talking about infrastructure very, very soon.
Okay, thank you. You have- Were you raising your hand?
No, I'll wait till you get to the end here when you talk about the capital improvement plan, because that's all gonna be part of it, and I was looking for.
Okay.
And there's questions that go with the sewer as well, with the $450,000 thing, because how much of the $450,000 they take into consideration for repairs of the sewer or whatever needs to be done when they mill the road.
It's, what will happen is, I've been in touch with SCUMA on coordinating that, and they've televised under Webster Road, in the project area, because the last thing we need is, of course, a collapse, because there's heavy equipment coming through there. What we will look at doing is relining Webster Road, but that will be a separate cost to us that will need to occur before the 2023 milling plan.
And all these things that you're gonna do, and I'm not gonna jump to the capital improvement plan, but I am gonna say this. The planning commission does a wonderful job of putting together the CIP plan and everything. The only thing the planning commission doesn't do a wonderful job at, because they don't realize how many different funds they're gonna draw from here. How many different you talk about fund balances, and how many different fund balances there is. I mean, you no longer have, if you look at the police department, it's no longer out of the general fund, it's a public safety fund. They have a fund balance of their own that we work with. We have the general fund balance, which is what we all like to talk about all the time, but you also have the sewer fund balance, or the sewer fund, in which you're gonna have some sort of fund balance there. And God help me from saying this, because we just got through going to court, and we're not gonna do anything with it until after, I'm guessing March. It's all the money still in the same account, and what my understanding of talking to the auditors and the attorneys and everything else, I can leave it there as long as I want, I'm the treasurer. But you have the DDA fund, which has a significant balance.
Right.
Even after you take and pay off the LCC and return their funds to them, it's gonna have a significant balance. And that money is by resolution restricted to the downtown development district. Because we did not do anything with the downtown development district money, we left it the same. That takes in Cousins Park, it takes in this corridor out here, and that's got a lot of money. So you got more than one money place for this stuff to come from. So I think, and that'll come later, I don't want to get too involved with this, but this Drumheller Road thing, you guys look at that number, and I think, yeah, okay. It's $450,000, I don't know how much, I've heard so many different numbers, I'm not really sure what we're gonna pay yet until we get down to the end.
I think until it's engineered, we won't have.
But it needs to be for the right reasons, just what Jason said, it needs to be so it's public safety and whatnot. The only thing I'm gonna remind you all, though, is we don't own the road. The county owns it. Act 51 money owns the road, folks. We don't get Act 51 money, the county does. So that's who owns the road. So everything you do, you're doing for the benefit of the county as well as for the people who the township drive down.
But we own the sidewalks,
You can,
and the streetlights, and
If you
the
decide to.
benches,
You
and
decide
whatever other
to.
thing
if you
we
decide
we
to,
choose to do on behalf of our community.
that's correct. If you decide to, you can. You'll be responsible for them once you do it. That's the other thing, there was a email that went somewhere today that I read, and you guys think I don't read my emails, but I do. There was an email that went somewhere today, they talked about, sidewalks, I think it came from you, it dealt with sidewalks and safe routes to schools, and the fact that we don't enforce our sidewalk ordinance, because we never have, we did it by enforcement by complaint only. And we're gonna have to look at that.
I generated that one.
And it goes,
It
it goes back to we're getting bigger. It's a bigger place. Now we're doing more. We gotta get a little more modern. We gotta do things a little bit differently. We gotta grow a little bit.
All I'll add to that is, we often on the board talk about, well, dollar amounts, recurring costs, and, we're gonna have to maintain that. But we spend almost no time talking about the safety of our citizens.
Yep.
And that perhaps safety costs money. We don't talk about sense of place, or we don't talk about, people who feel comfortable walking in their own community. Parents that are comfortable letting their kid cross the road to go to school. We don't talk about those things. And we need to start talking about those things. And when we talk about the budget and the financing, we need to have a clear understanding of why we're doing this and for whom we're doing it. And that's where the comprehensive plan comes from. That's supposed to be guiding our decision-making. The capital improvement plan that we're going to talk about in a second is a tool of the comprehensive plan. And it's the structure by which we get feedback and guidance from our planning commission on where we should spend those funds. And every year I'm jumping ahead.
Well,
I'll get off my soapbox.
I agree with you.
Guys, now,
If I can, I heard a comment the other day that there was a family that wouldn't let their child cross the street to go to either to middle school or to elementary school, and forgive me, I don't remember which one. And I was struck by that, they would rather drive their child and face the loop, is what I call it, than to let their child cross the street. And that really struck me as what you're talking about is the safety. And when you manage infrastructure and the day-to-day operations of things, you put your attention here because this is failing, or here because this is, this needs attention, or this needs to be updated. But you're correct. In a day-to-day of what I do, I don't consider safety, and that isn't anything intentional other than I'm not generally dealing with the public telling me this is broken and it's going to hurt somebody. But all those things can hurt somebody. So I heard that loud and clear, and it dawned on me the other night when we had that walking tour that was something I was missing too. So I appreciate that opportunity.
Let's move on. You guys, great discussion. Could not have asked for a better discussion. I don't know if you felt that way, but it was here. We're going to go to 14B, which is items for action. That's the Taco Bell.
Taco Bell, I believe we have representatives of Taco Bell here. I don't know quite yet if we need anything from you yet. The planning commission had forwarded to you. I just was saying, like, I don't know if they're going to act, or I don't know if they'll have questions for you, so. So I just wasn't sure. The planning commission forwarded this to you. You had an opportunity last time to speak with Tim and have a conversation about Taco Bell. I will note that there were 7 conditions that came with the approval of the site plan, and I will note that I believe all but 2 of them have been met at this time. So they are really working hard to meet our conditions. The only 2 that I believe are not met, and I could be wrong because it could be that they're ready, but I don't have the documents yet.
Well, let's talk about it.
Okay, good deal. Is the drain right-of-way agreement with Meyer and the pond maintenance agreement with Meyer. Everything else to this time has been completed by them, and they've been working in good faith to complete these items. So,
Is there,
Well, no, we're still waiting for Mr.
Meyer.
Myers not that quick to
Team.
react, so,
Okay.
I mean, they're bid just like everybody else is,
Yeah,
so.
sure.
They have, our attorney sent their attorney what we thought was agreeable to all parties, and we have not heard back from
So
Mike.
you're working towards it,
Yeah,
which is what we love to hear.
absolutely.
So we're not there yet, but they're working towards it.
all right, this says items for action, so I guess we take a vote.
Well, let me make a motion
Oh,
first.
so, motion.
I move to accept the site plan with the 7 conditions. Can I add a contingency here upon receipt of the 2 agreements listed under 3 and 4, the drain right of way
Yes.
and the pond maintenance agreement?
I'll second that.
Okay, hold on. Sorry.
Yeah, you can do.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howe?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yeah.
Mr. James Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Well,
Thank you. Yes, take care.
All right. We're still on 14B, which is the acceptance of the 21-26 capital improvement, CIP.
So the planning commission and Ryan, Mr. Trustee Hughes Bliss was part of forwarding this up to the board. This is for your acceptance. You are not approving it or denying it. You are only accepting it from the planning commission. We had a very good discussion at that level when they approved this up to you, that they feel like this process needs to continue to be improved as well. They feel as though they lack communication and information as to what often is important to this board. And I think that that is something that you would say probably of their work as well. So I would recommend as we move through the next few months and they embark on this process again, that we take time to meet with the planning commission and to get on one page when it comes to goals and strategies. They do have a master plan that they are forwarding to you. It needs to, I believe, have just a public hearing and then it will be here for your consideration. So, but I think we can all benefit from some open dialogue between probably one of the two most important groups in this township. So,
Are you recommending a joint meeting?
Yeah,
I am.
that's what I, thank you. I'm glad you asked that.
Okay.
When is that supposed to take place? If you're looking at.
wait, no, we don't need to do that right now. It's just
No, I
something
understand
that.
that, but
Yeah.
I'm looking to see what they've done and what they're planning. So when you're talking about a joint meeting, you're talking about something that's going to give us the information to, because this is not even for action. So we either
Your
accept it or
action
reject.
is to accept it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, that if we have a joint meeting, what if we don't accept what they said? Even though we're accepting, does that make any sense? Okay.
I've never not seen a board accept the capital improvement program from the planning commission. It would be your choice if you chose not to.
Sure.
But this is a document they transmit to you and is for consideration during the budgeting process. If you chose to fund one of these projects, I believe there are 2 included, you can choose to do that, but you do not have to do that.
So what you're saying that we're going to vote on is whether we accept this particular plan that they have.
Correct.
That's, because I was looking at it thinking, what if I disagree? Go ahead, trustee. I appreciate it.
There's 2 pieces that I feel are missing in the capital improvement plan that would be
Yeah,
helpful
that's-
for us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Inasmuch as this is a document that's supposed to inform our decision-making,
Mhm.
it would be helpful for me to have a bit more than a paragraph or a few sentences on the process. Specifically, I'd like to see what the process rubric was, and then I'd like to see the data. And so it could be aggregate data, but what the actual scores are for the particular project. Both for, because I believe, is it not correct that they score both non-discretionary and discretionary projects?
No,
They only score the discretionary
You're
projects?
right. Okay.
Okay. And so unless I missed where those scores would have landed. But part of that is, I'd also like to see, and we have either, some sort of, indicator for how much variance there was in the scores. So if it was a lopsided distribution, you had half the planning commission score it high and half the planning commission score it low, that's useful information that
Okay.
would be helpful. But at least having those scores, and especially, when there's 2 projects, I would feel comfortable accepting this as is under the notion that's, they receive feedback of
Sure.
adding additional data.
Yes.
But in the future, if there are more projects, and it becomes a little bit more challenging for us to make a decision based on, these are the things that were approved versus not approved.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, treasurer responsible.
Good, I don't know, Ryan, whether you want to do this, you might not want to say this, but maybe Karen will answer the question. I think we ought to identify the difference between discretionary projects and non-discretionary projects. I understand what you're talking about, but
Okay.
I'd like to hear it from the public here, what it is, what the difference is between the two, and how they get decided, what's discretionary and what's non-discretionary. There must be some, obviously you have a part in this, Superintendent Hildebrand, because you write the budget. So you have an idea how that works. But I don't know, Ryan, is there a lot of talk at planning commission about that?
No, we were just given the two non,
Do you know the difference?
or
between the two?
discretionary. Yes, I do.
Okay, what's the difference between the two?
I'll defer to the superintendent because it does involve her in that process.
Well,
So the non-discretionary are those items that I undertake as part of my budget, whether it be a vehicle replacement, an infrastructure replacement. It, in the past, has not been rated, because whether or not, however something is rated, if it needs to be done, I'm gonna undertake it, and then this board would consider that as part of the budget process.
so the difference between the two would be,
Have to be done and need to be done, or want to be
so
done.
non-discretionary is need, right? And discretionary is, no? Okay. Go ahead.
So I can provide a little bit of background here. So over the past 5-6 years, the planning commission has really struggled with the scoring of the capital improvement projects. Because we've had projects that already had earmarked funds through different budgets, and then we had community improvement projects that typically were generated based on folks from Park Lake or folks from Parks and Rec. And we had a single process for scoring both groups. And so we have a scoring system that would score the resurfacing of a parking lot that had earmarked funds, and then we would score a senior center improvement project using the same tool. So it became really difficult to use the same tool for those disparate set of proposals. So to fix that, and in alignment with using a new tool, a new rubric for doing scoring, the Planning Commission parsed out the projects into what they called non-discretionary projects, projects that already have the funding, no decision really needs to be made on that, other than we've looked at it,
So it's a need basis.
versus discretionary, and we could play with words there, but just generally community improvement that would, that we don't have an earmarked set of funds for.
What that we would like to have, or want to have, or would be nice to have, but we don't have, and we haven't identified funding for. Thank you.
Okay, no, so discretionary is no funding. And non-discretionary is with a need, with funding? No funding.
Usually, if it's a sewer improvement or replacement of a police vehicle, or it's been identified somewhere in the budget.
Is non-discretionary.
Correct.
Okay. You got it.
Well, you're-
Can you help?
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, go ahead.
Everything is on here as a non-discretionary project, as a capital asset of the township, and that's referred to in page, forgive me if I'm wrong, but 73 or 74 of the audit.
You're
And
close.
most years it can fluctuate one way or the other.
Okay.
But that's a capital asset. If you think about this and then you look at it, our equipment is a capital asset, our
Right.
building and grounds are capital assets, our fire trucks are, our police cars are, public works has equipment, same thing. Even parks and rec repair and stuff that we have in our parks and rec are capital assets of the township, as well as all of our sewer things. And here's the point I want to make, and I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but here's the point I want to make. We've always had CIP items. That's been discussed whether we do or we don't, and we always have a CIP item because we have capital assets that we maintain. These things, that discretionary projects, they too are gonna be a capital asset at one point in time, with the exception of maybe the Cousins Park, because I believe we have some sort of a lease agreement with the school on that. So not necessarily will that be
Future.
in our audit, but it will be a capital expense, but it may not be a capital asset. That's my knowledge of that. The trail that you go around Park Lake, I think the supervisor was kind enough to show me your map the other day, and I didn't realize how much land we own around there. That's already a capital
Which
asset.
anytime you want it, just put it in.
That's what that is. That's what the thing you're missing there, that piece of it's like your home, your home's your capital asset. That's what it is, it's the township, that's what
So
it
if
is.
you put roads, if you have, just so I understand, so if you have roads, and then you have improvement.
The
on
roads are gonna be, that's something, I knew you were gonna ask me,
I
don't
knew
prove me
you.
wrong.
See,
The roads are
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
an investment in capital asset,
Okay.
because the roads is just like we talked about a few minutes ago about investing money. That you're investing in the county's roads, but you don't own the road. But that's an investment in
Okay.
capital, is what that's gonna refer to in the audit. That's not what that would be referred to as an
So
investment.
the non-discretionary, if I understand what you're saying,
Yep.
is an asset to township. The discretionary is a future possibly asset.
Could be,
to township.
if you own it. You know, Cousins Park's case, the school system's actually the owner of the property, but I think it belongs to all the citizens of Bath, and they own the government, so I don't know, you can beat that or.
Nope, that's,
Let's play with that logic.
but that's okay, Steve. You can-
I have to send them their tax dollars, every time I do a disbursement, I can tell you that.
Just for the clarification, we do own some roads, do we not?
No, we do not.
No,
The township owns no roads.
zero.
The only one that could own roads is a homeowners association, that somebody that lives in an association, the township has a private road, they could be, actually, I don't know how their association thing's written, but
Yeah.
technically, they could own roads.
We do.
The only reason I ask is that long story, when I was looking into whether or not an event could host a burnout contest, the answer I got back, it depends on if it's Clinton County owned road or if it's a Bath Township owned road. And so Main Street, it was unclear.
Main Street belongs to the Clinton County Road Commission,
Right. Okay,
same as the rest of the roads.
so I guess our item for action is the acceptance of this report.
The exceptions, yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the 2021, 2026, it says.
Yes, it does.
Improvements Plan recommended by the planning commission.
I'll second it.
Ms. Howe?
No,
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes,
Mr. James Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Benzi?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Sure, yes. Thank you.
I'll make sure. All right, the next item would be number 15, superintendent's report.
Thank you. I have listed under the superintendent's report, we don't often do this, but the superintendent's report is the budgeting work sessions that this board will take part in Thursday, October 14th at 4 p.m. here in this room, and Monday, October 18th at 5 p.m. here in this room prior to our regularly scheduled board meeting. At that meeting, you will decide how to proceed with going page by page or what approach you will take to going through the budget. The only thing I plan to do in preparation of the first meeting is to outline those items that are different contained in each department line item, if you find that would be helpful. If you have further direction on that, I would love to hear it, and how I can support you and assist you in that. If you would like the police chief or the fire chief to be available to have discussions with you during one of those meetings or a future meeting, because I'm sure we'll have more than just these two. Or any other member of staff that's submitted budget items. I'm happy to have whoever you would like at your disposal to answer questions or to give you background on anything that you would like. So that's one thing that my office has been preparing for. As Trustee Almarigi mentioned, there will be a kickoff meeting for the Safe Routes to School this week, and I'm pleased to say that he's made arrangements if it rains, that we will be at the Library Center, which we have been promoting all along in case we cannot meet in Chase Cousins Park. There will be some, I won't call it dinner, but there will be food items. We'll have pizza, we'll have fruit, we'll have vegetables, and things to drink for the members of the public that choose to join us for that. I'm excited about this. This project, we embarked on it in 2012, and it went by the wayside. I didn't know at the time what a missed opportunity it was, so I think that really I'm seeing now what we could have had all those years ago, probably at more or less a cost with the way that things have gone in the economy, but I'm glad it's been brought together and it's being done now, so I'm happy to be a part of that. I learned a lot. I walked the route from the park here on Webster Road because it's the main thoroughfare and it's where the township offices are. And when you look at it through the eyes of an engineering student or a planning professor, you look at it much differently. And I don't think I had that perspective before. So you start to see the lack of paint for children to cross the street safely. You start to see flagging stop signs. You start to notice that the traffic's going a lot faster than 45. So I don't have a young child that's walking to school. He's 19 now, but he didn't have to walk to school. But as a parent, those things concern me, and I'm glad to be a part of this project. It has taken Trustee Energy a lot of energy to put both of these projects together, and I appreciate that. Staff has not supported him at the level of which I hope that we can support him in the future, but I think that we're going to get there together, and we're all going to grow and we're going to learn. So our new planner, Miles Roblier, is on staff, and he is doing an amazing job. He is a very intelligent and a fast learner, and is already making big contributions, I think, to the way things are running in the planning and the building and zoning departments. We have posted for the recreation coordinator position. At this time, it's open for resumes and applications. We will be moving ahead and putting together the group of individuals that will help go over the applications, and we'll select candidates for the interview process and hopefully help us with that interview process and hopefully a selection process. So I'm very excited about that. Most of our time at this time is consumed with elections in front office. At this time, and I don't mean to take anything away from you and your staff, but how many absentee ballots have we processed?
I think we're up close to 1,100.
Yeah, so this staff of 3-4 people up front is not only has distributed the absent voter applications, but are now issuing actual ballots. And the entire staff prepares for November 2nd. Yes, that's correct. For people, we very much in this community have people that would prefer to vote via mail or ballot, absent ballot. And we do have people that are proud to come on that day and vote in person. So we will make sure that it's safe for whichever way people determine they would like to vote, that they can have that opportunity to do so safely. So if you have any questions for me? Yes?
Just a very quick question.
Sure.
What is it different from, say, page by page, or obviously we'll have others, then you'll say no more differences, different from what?
So in the past, so what I will do, I'll take those two separate things. I can prepare you a document that tells you where the big asks are. The police department has asked for a replacement for one police officer that is retiring and the addition of another police officer full-time. They have asked for, to replace the K-9 vehicle, the cruiser, the K-9 cruiser. So what I will do is I can outline department by department what those items are that are contributing to the difference from the year previous. What are the big things that they're requesting?
Oh, from last year.
Yeah, sorry.
From last year's
In the
budget.
fire department, they're requesting additional staffing. In the clerk's department, under elections, she's asking for a tabulator to help with absent voter ballots. So I can tell you what those bigger ticket items are that are different from the year previous.
Thank you.
Have you got a new copy available now and been able to
No.
issue and edit that?
No,
No?
no, I have done no work since I issued it,
Okay.
because you all have not had a chance to go through it or have discussions as a full board. I have not modified anything,
Okay.
so. what I gave you the first time is other than reformatting it, is the only thing I did, was to make it bigger and bigger and bigger. But really, my introduction of that budget, there really is no reason for me to do anything to it until you all have some discussions about it.
Okay.
So, the second thing you asked is going page by page.
Well, that's,
In the past, some people have gone right to the police department and they want to talk about the police department. Others have wanted to go township board to the supervisor's page, to the clerk's page, and go page by page. So I'm happy to do it any which way this board feels it would like to.
you answered my question, so
Okay.
I'm good. Is there anybody else?
Perfect.
No questions? Okay.
I have a comment. Page by page works very well.
I like page by page. That's me.
You're welcome.
Good man.
Happy to do it.
See, those great minds think alike. Okay, whether you like it or not. We're going to 16, which is your public comment. And these are questions, according to what this is written, required short, timely answers may be posted to the board, may be posed to the board. Stay within your 3 minutes. If in fact you're asking a question of the board, your 3 minutes will continue. So, anybody?
Are we using the podium? Is the microphone still not working?
No, it's working.
I might get a little foggy here, so let me take over. Mr. Westwasser, thank you. Now I can't see you. I wanted to thank you because I realized that that the lady you were talking about at the beginning of the meeting is me. Thank you. I heard you. You heard me, more importantly.
Yes, it is.
And you listened to what I had to say, and it means a great deal to me that you did that, and that you took it upon yourself to take your part and research that, and you did some digging. You worked hard. You put in time looking up information and facts that you thought were important to me, and I want you to know that I see you and I hear you too. Thank you. But I did not misunderstand that the Board of Trustees is capable of foreclosing on my house. I do realize that they don't make tax decisions, but there are some of you that may be sitting on a board or a committee that I do need to apply to, maybe through the Board of Reviews. Plus, I'll need to be working as well with the clerk's office, different people in the clerk's office asking for, what is it, my word? Exemption or partial exemption. So I will be, needing to work together with you. And that was in regards to my statement of coming down, putting myself out there, or just kind of laying low, under the radar, so to speak. But I will be coming in for help with that, just navigating the complicatedness of it all. So, thank you again. And I will take whatever printed material that you had for me. Further down the line, on other lines, notify the public of what you are or you are not doing. Thank you, sir. And I know that the Parks and Rec is in coordination with volunteer citizens for the trunk or treat. I think that's great. They said on the community site that you all were working together. Great. And that you are going to be, is that going to be posted on the website, your job posting?
It is currently.
It is now. Okay, I couldn't get on today, so I didn't know. And
And if you want to, you can come and we can print the materials out for you.
That's
Or
all right.
anybody. I'm just saying that for you and for anybody.
Forever, okay, thank you. And once again, don't forget about Park Lake in your budget and your CIP. And I'm glad that the safe passage went well and you had a good turnout. Thank you all very much. I have a really bad toothache, so I'm going home. Thank you. Oh, and who is this?
This is our deputy clerk, April Dunham, and our clerk is going to be out of town, so she is attending tonight, so she could help take minutes and then prepare those for the next meeting.
Great, nice to meet you.
Thanks, Meg. Is there anybody else?
Would you mind?
George Baker, State Road, East Langston there. I just want to thank all those that serve here on this board and our community and other boards. I wanted to mention also about the Webster Road. When that committee was formed, it was to, what I assumed was to get the basics started, and then, so I do know that we have got like some of the options. That was the initial focus, was to see what options we did have. Within that happened with Dan at the county year and a half ago, or whatever it was. And so that's where that kind of initially started. And it was just on the road committee, and then we knew that was going to happen, then he brought it before the board. So then they formed the committee to see what options we have. So I do know that we are going to be engaging the public. That was discussed heavily during the last meeting. So that will be coming up, and that's why we come up with some of the options we have. But yeah, there's a lot more discussion. That's kind of why it's going to not go as fast as I'd obviously like. And I'm also thankful for the sidewalk walk that we did. That was, even though I've been involved with other things, it was very informative to me to see. I haven't walked through there like that in a long time, and with the MSU, I just want to thank MSU too for all their input. They were very, very well prepared, and it was very organized and well put together, and did a nice job leading us through that. Jason, thank you. You guys have a good week.
Just make a couple comments.
Do that.
Well, related to what Mr. Baker pointed out. I thank you for your comments. I do. I look forward to the Webster Road Committee and their additional efforts. I no means, I very much appreciate the expertise as well as all the work that committee has put into that. I also hope that there can be more collaboration between State Across the School and Webster Road, because there should be a single plan and continuity between with the sidewalk infrastructure across the two. So.
That was highly discussed also at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Was there anybody else that had public comments? Jill, go ahead.
Hello. My name is Jill Sandercock. I've lived in Bath Township for 37 years. I'll be honest, I don't participate in these meetings. I think I've been to 3 in the 37 years that I've lived here. I vote for people that I think care about the best interest of Bath Township, and this is why I voted for Marie Howe. She has integrity, she cares about how our township money is spent, and that we're doing everything legally. It came to my attention on Facebook, of all places, that members of this group have in effect removed Marie's powers. I consider this a dirty politics. Shame on all of you that participated in that. I think it should be illegal. You've taken away my vote. I would ask that you return her powers and do so quickly. I promise If any of you run for office again, I will make it known to all the Bath Township voters who the dirty politicians are. You are elected to make Bath Township a better place to live. You need to work together to make Bath better. And to Ryan, I'm a fellow Chippewa, Ryan. Shame on you. You brought shame to CMU.
Anybody else has comments? No? Good. All right, we're going to go to 17, which is board member comments. You get to take part of yours, Jason.
What's that?
You take part of yours, which you already made with George.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do you have more?
I've got lots more. This time, all I will say is I want to thank Karen for your comments. I do truly understand how much work and how much blood and energy and passion and soul goes into this job, not only for you, but everyone involved. And so I recognize that, I see that, in where I push, I do so with best intention. And so I really appreciate our relationship. I think I'm very excited about the future and what we all can do.
Thank you.
Joe? anything?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody, all four of you that made it through the whole meeting.
There you go.
And Jeremy, congratulations. Thank you. That's it for me.
All right, thank you. Treasurer, Ms. Foster.
Just thank everybody for tonight and coming and all the comments and everybody's participation. Drive safe on the way home.
Actually, that's a ditto. And so did you. I actually say the same thing. Thank you for the four that stayed. Sometimes that's a little boring. Sometimes it gets a little tough. Those chairs aren't the most comfortable things to sit in, but thank you for staying. So hopefully more will come next time. And I would agree with Steve and Joe. So thank you.
Thank you for coming.
In my absence last week, I sat and watched the board meeting, and I'm sorry, Jason, but you do back off every time you go to talk. And
Sorry.
but I learn a lot from listening to and not being able to hear certain people, and especially on the podium. And you all have a good night.
Okay, fine. None? All right, it looks like we're on 18, which is adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Mr. Almarigi?
Yes.
Mr. Bensy?
Yes.
Mr. Wisswasser?
Yes.
Ms. Howard?
Yes.
You need something carried to the vehicle?
No, thank you.